welcome back to Jeff Koinange live at the poolside of the Intercontinental Hotel. If you're just joining us right now, it's getting steamy and hot and smoking. Tony Gachoka, Professor Makau, Mutua on the bench, and they are having a slugfest, if you will. This is the rumble in the jungle. Let me read a couple of the tweets here, guys. It's these guys. Moa says, you gotta love this guy, Tony Gachoka. He spits fire. Tell them, Tony. Shylock Hassan Ali says, please, Mutua, respect the verdict of Kenyan people and accept Uhuru as president and stop being used as tissue paper by the West. Edwin Wawero says, boss, tuma waiter Tony akimbiliwe Vix Kingo.
Asante, I got it.
I see. Gentlemen, okay, real quick, you didn't answer that question from Table 48 at Habesha, and these guys they're clamoring for an answer. About that you will never ever support President Uhuru Kenyatta. In fact, you insist on calling him Mr. Kenyatta, right? The question is, what are your next steps after this hearing today? What are your next steps? And the second question is, as an individual, what is your personal contribution to Kenya?
You know, there is a false assumption, you know, about the question. The false assumption is that every citizen of every country must support their president. Okay? There is no requirement in any constitution or document that I know of that says that I have to support a president. Okay? The requirement for a citizen is to support their state and their country, as long as that state and that country is doing the right thing. My allegiance is not to an individual. So the question of asking me whether I support Mr. Kenyatta or don't support him does not arise. It doesn't arise.
And what is your biggest problem with him, Prof? Tell us, what is your biggest problem?
I have no problem with Mr. Kenyatta. In fact, I once had, you know, very pleasant exchanges with Mr. Kenyatta in London in 2006 over the Anglo-leasing matter, where I was the lawyer for Mr. John Gidongo. And we had lunch together. We shared drinks. You know, he's a nice guy. You know, he's a nice guy.
But
he's a nice guy. But all I want to say for now is that the man is charged with crimes against humanity, against the Kenyan people.
If this case
and that charge itself should give Kenyans a reason for pause. If someone, let me just say this: if Tony Gachoka today, for example, was charged with murder or with rape, for example, God forbid, do you think that Kenyans would vote for him? You know, to be president? Would he, for example, be allowed to run?
Tony, can I ask one more question?
I want to be clear.
One more question, Tony. One more question. Prof.
Yes.
If this case is thrown out, let's say down the line, it's thrown out.
Yes.
Would you support the president and this administration? Would you turn around and support him?
Well, let me just say this. You know, a lot depends on how the case concludes. You know, the case could conclude in many ways. I mean, there are many options on the table. The case could be dismissed. The case could go on. The suspects, could be convicted. The case could be delayed. I mean, there are so many options out here. You know, Mr. Kenyatta could be charged with obstruction of justice. We don't know. If the Kenya government does not produce the evidence, that is required. No, just wait a minute.
Would you support?
So depending upon how the case concludes, if in fact Mr. Kenyatta is tried in a fair and open court and is not found to be guilty, I'll rest my case.
You rest your case.
Tony,
your thoughts?
I didn't interrupt him. I hope I'll have the same 3 minutes he had. Number one, Nelson Mandela was jailed by a court. And everybody knows, 27 years, he paid the price for freedom. Being taken by a court and jailed by a judge is no accolade. I want to be very clear, when I compared Uhuru and Jomo Kenyatta, they were both, in my view, persecuted by colonial powers. People came here and wanted regime change. Uhuru Kenyatta was a patsy. Let me make it very clear for this historical day of Uhuru's Kapenguria. Uhuru was elected against the background, not another Kikuyu. Uhuru was elected that you can't elect people because of the charges at the ICC. Uhuru was elected with a new constitution that required 50+1% of all Kenyans and half the counties. And Uhuru beat Raila Amolo Odinga by 1 million votes. Had we gone for a rerun, it would have been the same song. Now let's be very clear. The man was elected by Kenyans, of which he has only 1 vote. I am tired of this idea in a country. When you are defeated in a democratic election, yes, you can comment, but your opinion, we have a sacred rule in journalism. I did not interrupt him. But opinion is free, but you are repeating yourself.
You are repeating yourself.
Are sacred.
You are repeating yourself.
It was the 3rd US president who said that on matters of style, I swim with the current. But on matters of principle, I stand as a rock. I am defending the democratic choice, the sovereignty of the Kenyan people who chose their president.
But the Prof also says he's not even sure the president won.
No, but he's not calling him the president. He's calling him Mr. Kenyatta. It is disrespectful. You should not even call him a professor. You should call him a writer or an article. If he will not appreciate the title of Uhuru as president, from now on, I will never address him as professor.
What will you call him?
I will call him Makau Mutua.
Yes.
I will call him a son. What is the point of this?
Hold on.
All right, Tony.
Just hold on.
Go on, Prof.
Just hold on. There's no need for Tony to be hysterical. He's getting hysterical. I'm saying, my brother, calm down. Just calm down. What I have said, we are here to discuss a case at the ICC. We are not here to discuss the election of Mr. Kenyatta to the office of president.
You said that name again?
Okay, that is not what we are doing here. Okay,
well,
we are here to,
I'm not here for you to demean the office
and the way,
of the presidency of Kenya,
and the way
elected by the people.
And the way you are, because we're not asked to come in to talk about the election. We're not here to talk about the election. We're here to talk about the case that the man faces at the ICC. Let me just tell you this.
Yes.
Let me just tell you this. I think it's preposterous for you to compare.
Yes.
Nelson Mandela's jailing.
Yes.
By an illegal, racist apartheid court in South Africa.
Yes. Because of the Soweto.
To conflate that, just listen, to conflate that with Mr. Kenyatta's charges for crimes against humanity.
There was a Soweto uprising because of police brutality.
Just listen to
the Kikuyu nation was attacked. And let me be very clear. What did Uhuru do?
Are we not talking about the Kikuyu nation?
Well,
I think we're deviating from the subject here, guys.
Who attacked who?
Oh, come on, man.
Come on.
Guys.
I mean, why was Uhuru taken? He was not president. He doesn't bear the highest criminal responsibility. He was the then chairman of KANU. Uhuru had no executive.
Who should have gone, Tony?
Kibaki and his friend Raila. Those are the people. In fact, I hope the case can be reviewed so that Raila and Kibaki can face. I don't know what
is there a possibility.
Tony, there are laws and there are legal processes, and I keep on telling you this. I keep on wanting to return you back to the law. Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto did not get to The Hague by mistake or by accident. There was a commission of inquiry chaired by Justice Waki. Okay?
Driven by
just listen. Which commission of inquiry gathered evidence far and wide, including evidence, as I understand it, from the spy agency.
And
it is based upon, wait a minute, it is based upon that evidence that Mr. Waki gave an envelope containing the names of the people who bore the greatest responsibility.
Correct, Prof, but there were 20 names in that envelope. There were 20 original names.
But prosecutors are, there's something, again, I just want to make clear that Tony understands this very well. There's something called prosecutorial discretion. In every jurisdiction, a prosecutor decides which cases he has the highest probability of winning.
But very conveniently, Prof, there was 3 PNU and 3 ODM. Very conveniently. Ocampo did this.
Jeff, remember?
Wait a minute, Tony. Let me get to my point. During the course of the hearings, 2 on the PNU side were let go.
And they were charged together
as co-conspirators.
Yes. How do you take the
leaving one co-conspirator on his own in one case?
You see,
do you co-conspirate on your own, Prof?
You see, you guys, sound like you live in the Middle East, where conspiracies run rampant. You seem to think that conspiracies, exist around every corner. But no one can convince me that there's a conspiracy between the prosecution and the judges in the ICC to create parity of suspects. The fact that some PNU guys were let go and some ODM guys were let go, I chalk that up to
Jeff, I want to ask.
Hold on. You said that's coincidence.
To coincidence,
yes.
Yes.
Can I ask one question?
It's coming. You're coming.
Unless you can proffer evidence to show me otherwise.
I want him to tell me, as he lectures in law tomorrow in Buffalo, whether he will teach his students when they are prosecutors or whatever they become, DPP, whether they can ask any court for an indefinite adjournment. In other words, Mr. Your Honor, I have no evidence. But because I believe that Jeff Koinange has committed a crime, Your Honor, I'm asking for an indefinite adjournment. In fact, I can suggest a few dates. One, just before the Kenya general elections. Number two, if the court likes, until such a time that this court, the mood and the evidence changes. Where are the rights of the accused?
Let me just say this.
Is that the law he teaches?
No, let me just say this.
I haven't learned.
Tony, let me just tell you this. The job of the prosecutor is to go after suspects and to try to prove their culpability.
But the prosecution hasn't done a good job.
But wait a minute, I'm not finished. That is the work of a prosecutor. If, for example, I was prosecuting the mafia in Chicago or in New York or anywhere else, and the mafia were going off killing of suspects, I would start investigating the killing of those witnesses. That's exactly what I would do, and I would ask the court, by the way, to give me as much leeway as possible, okay, to delay the case, indefinitely until I can get, the evidence that I need.
But Prof,
I will do that. Prof. Now, the court does not have to agree with me, but as a prosecutor, I'm entitled to ask for that.
Prof, let me ask you this. Yes. Hasn't the prosecution bungled in this case against Kenya? Hasn't it bungled for the most part?
Let me say this. Jeff, it is very difficult to prosecute a sitting head of state.
He wasn't sitting head of state when he was hauled in.
No, but I'm saying now, it is very difficult to prosecute a sitting head of state. It's extremely difficult because a head of state controls the levers of power and the instruments of coercion.
There's an arrest warrant against Omar al-Bashir in Khartoum.
Jeff, there is no point of musical chairs.
And that's my point. My point is that Omar al-Bashir is a sitting head of state. And that's why it's so difficult to prosecute.
Can I quote KQC? There is no more choices before the ICC and the world and before Mr. Makau Mutua. There are two matters now to be determined in a few weeks. Number one, an acquittal and a verdict of not guilty against His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, CGH, the President of Kenya. The next one is whether or not there is going to be an adjournment or no adjournment. Now, I want this to be very clear. Today was a status conference that was done to cooperation about the Republic of Kenya versus the prosecutor.
Right.
The court will decide whether cooperation between the Republic and the prosecutor amounts to guilt or committing crimes against humanity.
Let me just say this. So, Tony, listen to me for a minute. The human mind can play tricks on a person.
Yeah, so can lawyers.
The human mind. Just listen.
I got to court every day.
And the human mind is playing tricks on you. Let me tell you something.
Have you ever been to a divorce court?
Let me tell you something. I mean, there's something called thoughtful wishing.
Yes.
And thinkful wishing. So what? If you think that you know what is in the minds of the prosecutor or in the minds of the court or how the court is going to rule, let me tell you that you have a surprise coming. I don't know what's going to happen. It is entirely possible that in the next 2 weeks, Mr. Kenyatta and Mr. Ruto could be let go scot-free. That's a possibility, okay? And if that happens, so be it, okay? It could also be the case, my brother, that in fact, other options come into play.
Did you listen to the prosecutor today?
Listen.
She said, if you don't give me an adjournment, my case is finished.
Now listen.
Did you watch the proceedings? Barracuda began by aggressive.
There's nothing new about that.
Prof,
there's nothing new about that.
Brian Caxton is saying, remind the man who speaks of law that a man is considered innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely.
I have never said anything but that. Mr. Kenyatta is innocent and you're proven guilty. So is Mr. Ruto. I have always said that. I don't know why you don't get it through your head that this is something I've always said.
Uhuru is a father. He's a son. He's an individual other than a politician.
Of course he is.
A charge of crimes against humanity on his head indefinitely. And you say that you want an adjournment because you have no evidence until he brings the evidence to hang himself. Let me say this. You can fool some of the people some of the time. All of the people some of the time. But you cannot fool all the people all of the time.
Listen,
and
I don't think that you understand.
I am saying you can ask for an indefinite adjournment.
Just listen.
You only say how much time do you need and for what?
Just listen.
What do you need specifically?
No, listen to
Tony,
me.
Listen to me.
Listen to me. I don't think that you understand the meaning of an indefinite, adjournment. It is not what you think it says. It seems it's a reasonable time. It means a reasonable time for the prosecution to be able to work with the court and the judges to get the evidence that is necessary.
Don't you think they're trying to save face, Prof? They're trying to save face, ICC?
I don't think so. I don't think the ICC, has to save face. I don't think so at all. I think the ICC is following a legal process. And, and the legal process is that Kenya has obligations.
Yeah, but since the ICC was formed, only one person has been convicted, and that person was African. Out of the hundreds of millions of euros they've spent, one conviction. They're trying to save face, bro, because this court is in trouble.
And your point is what?
My point is, hauling this man all the way to The Hague was just to say, you know what, guys?
No, listen, Jeff. There are 8 cases, there are 8 situations before the ICC. Okay?
Yeah.
4 of those situations are self-referrals by African states. African states themselves took those cases to the ICC. The other 2 cases were referred to the ICC, one of them by the AU, in fact. Okay? This argument. I'm not finished. So this argument that that the court is going after African states is preposterous.
Excuse me.
So the argument that you are raising,
yes,
which is that somehow I think you are implying that the court is racist.
Yes.
It's a canard. It's just a canard. If, for example, I was to catch 2 suspects or 3 suspects, and 5 others went scot-free, would you tell me not to prosecute the ones that I've gotten?
No, Jeff.
I would, but you know what?
Jeff, one of the problems I have with NGOs, and one of the problems I have with NGOs is none of them is elected, but all of them have an opinion that is meant to be louder than the other. I'm only stating a factual position. The prosecutor.
Has this man ever heard of democracy?
No, and
speech rights? Has he ever heard of that?
The prosecutor said today, I have no evidence.
Gentlemen, don't make me.
The prosecutor said today in a status conference, it's a matter of public record. I have no evidence against Mr. Kenyatta. I therefore apply formally for an indefinite adjournment. And Mr. Kenyatta must be ordered to go and tell his officers to give us that evidence to jail him.
Gentlemen, let's take a break. Let's pay some bills, come back, talk some more. That speech the president made before he left. I want your thoughts on that.
Absolutely.
That speech.
Absolutely.
The speech where he handed over power to his deputy. Your thoughts after the break.
Yes.
My goodness. This bench is smoking. At Tony Gachoka, at Makau, Mutua, at koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. JKL will be back in a moment.